Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another episode of the Draxx Life Podcast, where we'll chat about some of the weird and the wondrous. Let's get to the show. Are alive. All right, this is another episode. Lots been happening. Glad for all of those who are out there listening. We're back. I got Bobby A in the house. And as always, he's going to kick us off and, tell us what we're talking about today.
First, we want to start with a quick, how you doing, Chris?
I'm good.
How was this week? You were good?
I'm good for the most part, dude. I'm working on a number of things and, yeah. Dude, one thing, all right, lesson learned. For those people who people don't know who we are. Some of them do. So like I left a job to kind of like work on some little side projects to stretch my entrepreneurial muscles, as it were.
I support it.
Right. One thing I will say is this, dude, like it is easier to work a job. For all of those who are out there complaining about a job, dude, the grass is always greener. And like, it's one of those things you can like hear what I'm saying and just be like, go fuck off. It doesn't matter. You're lying. But like when you do it, you're like, oh, okay, it makes sense. Because honestly, like working, even if you hate your job, it's like you clock in, you clock out, and then you're done. Like you get paid every 2 weeks. You look at you look at your bank account and boom, there's money there. And like, if you're trying to do something yourself, it's not the case, right? It's like, you are your own boss, and it's like, you don't get paid unless you make moves. So I will tell you straight up that like in my last 7-month foray in entrepreneurship, dude, you learn a lot. Like you learn a lot. Like I feel like I've learned maybe like 2 years worth of information in like the last 6 to 7 months, just because like you run into problems and you're like, I got to figure this out. And then you're on Reddit or you're on here and you're looking stuff up and you have to kind of like evolve quickly. But yeah, it's like, dude, you're always on, like you're always having to kind of like hunt and peck and like learn. There's really no time. You can't shut it off because you ain't getting paid. So I give a lot of credit. If anything, I'm like, all right, people who do this as a career and are like, unless you started out with like huge amounts of capital, I give them a lot of credit because it ain't easy.
But, yeah. You gotta graft. You gotta work hard.
You gotta work hard. Exactly. And there's no one to blame. You're like, I can't blame anyone. Like, I can't blame this person. It's me. Right.
Yeah.
So it's been cool. This week has been ups and downs.
No, yeah, exactly. But I would say it's more fun. Yes, it's easier to have just the punch in, punch out job, but is it more fun though?
I mean, again, I think it's one of those things where like the common expression you hear, especially like, and I've heard it from people I've talked to who are like, were entrepreneurs or have been like decades long entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. Like you always hear the expression like the highest highs and the lowest lows. And you hear it all the time. It's almost a cliche. Like if you go into any like entrepreneurial like subreddits or whatever, you hear it kind of like thrown around. It's true, right? Because it's like you're gonna have awesome days and you're gonna have your best days and your worst days, right? Whereas I think if you work a job, it's kind of like steady state, right? You're just kind of like, it's constant. Maybe you have a day that's not so great. Maybe you have a day that's a little bit better, but like it's smooth. Whereas with this kind of stuff, it's like ups and downs. Like you have people, a common friend of ours I was talking to recently who's in Florida. So if he's listening, he knows. Like I called him the last couple of times and like he's had some like pendulum swings that were like not good. And it's like, yeah, dude, now you're like, okay, shit, I got to figure this out. I'm lucky in that no one relies on me. Like it's just me, right? It's not like I got kids or like a wife that I'm taking care of. So it's like kind of fun. Like I can explore. I can, the risk is not super, super high. But the one thing I would say is like you learn quick. You'll learn. I think when you are doing your own thing, I will say you get smarter faster, which is cool. I feel like if you work your own job, if you're working a job, it's kind of like someone sets the bar for you, and very rarely do you like, I'm going to exceed the bar. No, you find the bar. And you're just like, all right, that's what I need to do. All right, cool. Whereas like if you're doing your own business stuff, it's like you learn. You have to push yourself. So I don't know if it's more. It is more fun in that sense, but it's also like it's more difficult. You got to push yourself. No one is telling you what to do, right? It's like, all right, you need to do that, and like that does take a little bit of like a mind shift a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. Well
Because you
said.
could wake up and be like, I'm gonna watch TV all day. Like if you wanted to, no one's like your boss is not saying, hey, you need to like send me
You,
this report by the end of the day.
yeah, deadlines and meetings to go to and stuff like that. Yeah.
Correct. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that's me. What about you?
Doing well, doing well. Still coming out of this past weekend was pretty good. Um, did the did my normal routine, and as anyone who listens will know what that is. So Saturday was crazy, and in a good way. And yeah, there's just a normal mundane work week is kind of what you're alluding to. That's why I asked you that question,
Yeah.
because I mean this week, it's for me, it was just about getting to Thursday night. I didn't care about the actual job itself. It just, like I said, it covers the expenses. It
Yeah.
allows me to have fun. It allows me to
To
do
live
my
your
thing.
life.
Yeah, yeah. But otherwise, nothing major to report.
The one thing I'd say
Yep.
though, like if you do at some point, you're like, yeah, I want to try something new. Like time, it's like time is relative. I think that's like the Einstein thing, like the theory of relativity. Like
Yeah.
it does. I, like I do feel like that becomes very present. Like if you work a job, weeks fly by.
Oh
Dude,
yeah, yeah.
you
Like
get a
months,
job,
months disappear.
years fly by. Like
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it'll be like 2 years. Because how it's like when we did retail together, right? It's like weeks just because you're already Monday. You're thinking about Friday, and you're just
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
crunching time, right? You're just going through it. I do find that when you do your own thing, you like time does not feel the same way because like for you when you work a job, like you're getting paid no matter what. You're just trying to get to the payday, right? It's like you're almost trying to like time warp
Bingo.
to get
Yeah.
paid, right? Whereas, so like the goal becomes like, how can I get, like if you could, you might hit a button that just says, okay, like I need you to transport me from 2 weeks into the future where I get paid. Like you want time to move fast. Whereas when you're like like doing a business,
Mm, that's a good way to
you
look at it.
actually would hope that a day was like had an extra 6 hours. Like
Yeah.
you almost because you need to get more done in the same amount of time. And it's just is different, right? You look at time differently. Also, you're like, oh shit, I'm spending money. And like it just creates a whole different perception. So like I look at like an Elon Musk who's created all these massive businesses. Like it might feel in his body and his mind like it's only been 20 years. It might be like feel like 50 years just because of like how you perceive time trying to tackle those obstacles. um yeah, that's another big thing. We could talk about this in an episode. It might be kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, for me, time is like, has it been 7 months? Has it been like a year? It feels differently.
Yeah, yeah. That I think secretly, or not so secretly anymore. That's what I am jealous of. I like that. I like when you value your time more rather than wanting to speed it up. If
Yeah,
you could, like the jobs we
yeah,
work together, you just want to hit the fast forward button and just churn it out, get through it,
correct.
so that you get the funds in your bank account at the end of the day. That's all you want.
Yeah,
But I
and I
want
think
to.
that's like, dude, I think that's kind of like. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
no, no. Finish.
No, I was just gonna say, and I think that's like I'm not the type of person that would say like, dude, everyone's different. So like everyone has a different disposition. So like you got to do what makes sense to like you and your disposition. Like some people, it's like I want to just work my job, get paid, and then I'm gonna go home and then I'm gonna do all the things I enjoy doing in my free time, which is cool. Um, the
Hmm.
one thing I do think, which is accurate, is like when you do work that way, where it's like every 2 weeks you get paid, you like in a sense, most people. I'm not gonna say all people, but a lot of people, it's like what you're describing. It's kind of like you're living for the weekend,
Yeah,
and you have a lot more days that are not weekend.
I know you're looking for something to break up the monotony of your real life,
Yeah, well,
which
it's like,
is
all right, so you're telling me that you live your life 2 days out of 7.
yeah, that's exactly how I think about it now. It could, but I'm kind of that's why I'm happy that you did it, and
Yeah.
I congratulate you for that.
And again, but
Um,
again, grass is always greener. At the end of the day,
Fair
you've
enough.
made
Yeah,
money and I haven't. So
yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
understand that.
just an interesting, like, yeah, it's a different way of being. I don't think one's right or one's wrong. It's just how your disposition is, I guess. But anyway,
Yeah, that part's not lost on me. But speaking of hobbies, then aliens. Let's just get into
yeah, dude.
it.
So I love that you kind of like, dude, guys. Those of you who listen to this, I hope there's a few of you. I saw that we had 13 views on our last
No,
episode,
yeah,
so some people are listening.
there's fans.
Um,
I'm telling you, there's. I
Bobby
know.
A is like he has it's as if the tips of his fingers are roots that just are sent out into the ether, into the world, and they're just sucking up knowledge. He's got his finger on the pulse, and he was the one that kind of brought up to my attention what's been going on lately with some of the stuff with aliens and some recent government releases. So yeah, man,
Yeah.
break this down for us. Give us the high level, the low level, the details.
Okay. So yesterday, Congress. Yesterday morning, Congress had a hearing. The second hearing of the committee, I believe is called, is the Committee of Oversight and Accountability. So they don't just deal with extraterrestrial stuff. There's a committee comprised of a couple people that they do other things, but this is the second hearing. And the first hearing, which I think when we messaged each other you alluded to, where there was a ex-pilot or an ex, I think he was a naval officer, he was a pilot, or Air Force, I think he was an Air Force pilot, and they were talking about specifically crafts and equipment that the US government and the military are in possession of. This hearing touched a little bit upon that, but the big reveal, a lot of the things they talked about we already know. You've seen it on Ancient Aliens, you've seen it on Graham Hancock, you've seen it on all the UFO shows, Unsolved Mysteries. So there's a bulk of it. I would say the majority of it are things that we already know.
Okay.
Right? However, the big takeaway from yesterday's hearing is the U.S. government and the U.S. The military, the industrial complex has now admitted, and it's on record in a congressional hearing, that they've contacted what they call non-human intelligences. So first contact has been made, Jodie Foster, Matthew McConaughey style. So they've they've admitted it, Chris.
I
What do
like
you
it.
think about that? So before I
Yeah.
keep going, what do you
Well,
first? They've
I want you to lay it out because I have a lot of thoughts on this. So
Yeah.
lay out any more of the high level details, and then we can start chewing it up.
All right. So they talked about. So there was three people on the panel. I forget their names. I think one is Luis Espinoza. He's ex government, ex like high level, and then they had a doctor, a scientist who was military, and this congresswoman. Her name is Mace. I think it's Nancy Mace. Yeah, Nancy Mace. I like her a lot. She's cool because she basically called out the Department of Defense and said, "We've been holding these documents for this." So she knows shit. She said, "We've been withholding these documents and these videos for too long. This hearing is to finally set the record straight that we have been in contact with aliens." That's essentially what she said.
Okay.
I'm paraphrasing her introduction, because she's the director of this committee, the Oversight and Accountability Committee, which is kind of a funny name for the U.S. government, because I don't know how much they hold people accountable. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah.
Yeah. So she went on she had a whole intro, a long intro, and To summarize it, that's basically what she said. And then there's these three government military officials. Two of them were served, and one of them was just a scientist. He never fought in any kind of um, he was never deployed anywhere, but he was a scientist with the military. And that guy said everything is true. He said, she asked her point blank, do we have crafts that are from other worlds? He said, yes, we do. Does the U.S. government have a project or a department that investigates UAPs? Because they changed when we were growing up, Chris. It was
Yeah.
called UFOs. Now they changed it to UAPs. He said yes, point blank, yes.
Okay.
And then other people were asking him, so who gave you this documents? Can you name the people? And he said, like this Espinoza. I'm butchering his name, but it's Luis. I think it's Espinoza. And he said, I can't at this hearing right now publicly. I can't reveal. So they're still covering up a couple things. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's saying because one there's a congressperson from Florida that asked him point blank, who gave you these documents? You say it's the Department of Defense, but who was it? Like, they basically give me names, name the names. And he was like, I'm not at liberty to say that. I can't do it. So there's still things going on in the shadows.
Yeah, so
But
I'm looking. So one of the people who is like been kind of close to this is a journalist named Michael Schellenberger. I think he was actually in.
I think he was there.
Yeah, he was. I think on. He was at the table, like he was involved. And I'm looking at his account on X where he also put the documentation. So when you brought this up, I started to look into it. It's kind of an interesting. All right, hold up. First, did you lay out the table, or can I start chewing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. One, I saw some kind of people commenting on it, which I thought it's kind of typical within like the UFO communities. It's kind of like
It's one of my favorite communities. That's why I'm Fox Mulder, man. I'm
yeah,
the real life Fox Mulder.
yeah. It's funny because it's like you really are.
Yeah.
Like whenever people kind of say like admit to something, there's never any like tangible proof. Like it is kind of funny. Like I saw someone post on Twitter like, all right, a lot of things we already kind of believed, and again, no like show us the freaking ship. Take a picture of like it's all like conjecture. It's all like cloak and dagger, whistleblower. It's testimony, but there's really no like documentation to there's no images, there's no video, there's nothing to corroborate and or validate what someone is saying. So like I thought that was kind of funny because it's kind of true. Like even in this kind of like this happened in the walls of Congress, I believe. There's still no
Yeah.
like tangible, like no one said here this is the documentation, like we have video proof. I thought it was interesting. So like while you were talking, I pulled up the old Joe Rogan.
That's what Eric Weinstein said on Joe Rogan. He said exactly what you said.
Yeah,
He said,
it's the guy named. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
He said, if this all was true, where's the actual, like, I want to see actual evidence. But I think in this hearing they alluded that there is actual evidence.
Correct, but
they're
again,
not
it's
allowed
like,
to release it yet.
Yeah, but it's like, all right. Well, to me, when it comes to the confines of the government, to me that means nothing. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, dog. Like, until you show, I can't trust anything you say in when you affirm it to be true or when you affirm it to be false. So unless you can like pony up the visual evidence, like it's kind of like we're in a stasis. We're hover. You know what I mean? We're hovering over the truth. Like until I see the evidence, your word has no value to me.
Yeah, fair.
When it comes to the government. But I thought so. The Joe Rogan episode I was commenting on was with a naval pilot. named Ryan Graves. And I liked his video. I liked his interview. Do you remember this one?
I do.
Okay.
That's the first one when they're talking about what he saw when he was flying.
Correct. And
Yeah.
he makes no claim as to what it is. He just says, like, we see things. And it's like, whether you're on the East Coast or the West Coast, you see these things. And for the most part, they're all described the same and they have the same behavior. Like, we don't know what it is. We don't know if it's an it. We don't know if it is a piece of technology. We have no idea. It's just, we see them. And
Mhm.
like, when we bring it up, it's like kind of brushed aside as like, yeah, we know. Shut up. Like, that was kind of paraphrasing like
Yeah.
the response. And his thing was, because I think he comes from his specific job is like about safety, is like, well, this is like a safety issue. Like, we're flying and like we could run into something, and like from a like a purely safety policy standpoint, we need to kind of know how to deal with this, because like, what if we run into one? They're there. It's like as if we were flying in fog. Like, we would have a safety procedure. Like, there's fog here. Well, we don't go over there, right? So that's how he was approaching it. He wasn't kind of commenting on what it is, just the fact of like we see these things. And I think that's kind of like, yeah, like I feel like the alien. I don't think we can use alien as the right word anymore. I think we should say like I like how they characterize it as non-human
Mhm.
intelligence.
Yeah.
I like that, because what is non-human intelligence? Like, it's a much broader topic. Like,
Yeah, you're right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I liked how when someone asked Elon Musk about aliens, he's like, well, I have a lot of like, he's like, I have more sensors in space than anyone, and like, I haven't seen anything. So like, it evolves the question a little bit. Like, all right, well, what are we talking about? Like, are those vessels? Are those? Is that technology, or is that like a life form?
Yeah, I think they touched a little bit upon that. I wish they would have asked more pointed questions about that exact thing.
Yeah, because it's
But
like, again, all civilizations, ancient aliens, it's like human beings since for the longest time have been aware that there was non-human intelligence. Like, it's laughable if you were to ask someone in ancient times, like, is there a smart, you know what I mean? Like, if you ask them that, they would be like, yeah, what are you talking about? Like, there's all kinds of stuff that we can't see that's around that's affecting us. Like, it's not human, right? It's just only in recent times that that's become kind of like a huge debate, right? Whereas like people from 1,000 years ago was like, yeah, we call them like fill in the blank, demons, genies, gods,
yes,
angels,
spirits. Yeah,
celestial beings, like, right? You know what I mean? So I like that the non-human intelligence is like an interesting topic, because it's like, what are we talking about? Right? It's like, are we talking about aliens as in like sci-fi ET, like creatures from another planet? Are we talking about celestial beings? Like, these words do change like how we frame it in our mind. Like, what are we seeing? Are we seeing
yeah.
technology, or are we seeing like
That
life forms that we can't comprehend?
yeah. You basically perfectly summarized the ancient astronaut theory from big up Giorgio.
Big
Giorgio
up,
was love it.
GG.
Yeah. That's what the ancient
Eh,
astronaut theory is. Did everything these people see in ancient times, was it a god or gods multiple, or was it an actual life form from another galaxy?
correct. And I mean,
Yeah.
and like, in this, when I looked over that document, it doesn't really. That's what I'm saying. Like, if they say they have vessels, that changes the context. Okay, then it means you have technology. Then let's see this technology. If you say, well, we have recordings of we've seen things, and we keep like lots of like high res video, and like we don't know. Like, to me, that's like, okay, that's interesting, because that still doesn't tell me what this thing is. Like, did you somehow just catch like video of, I'm gonna use just random words, an angel or a demon or a
Mm-hmm.
god or whatever, and like somehow you've caught a glimpse of this thing? If you have a piece of technology, that's different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's why I'm kind of like, guys, stop beating around the bush. Like, give us concrete. If you have a vessel, take a fucking picture of it and let's see it. Like, let's see it.
Yeah, I know. but but uh, to answer that question, all three of them. Let me give you the right names. I pulled them up. It's Luis Elinzonda. That's his name. He's a Department of Defense official. Michael Gold is he works for NASA. He's a scientist, and who you just said, Michael Schellenberger,
Yeah,
the journalist.
journalist.
Those were the three of them. So we let's get that right. I butchered his name, but I was just trying to. I said Espinosa, and
So go ahead.
no, you could ask.
So do you think? Okay, so here's my question. So a couple things. One, I like how Joe Rogan in recent years, two things has changed. Is one is he he kind of like went from like diehard UAP UFO guy to like maybe this is a psyop. So that's one question I'm gonna have to you. Like, could this be like a
Mm,
psyop?
it's not, but go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, and I'd like yeah, be curious as to why you think that. And then
Yeah.
two, do you think this is like the beginning of a larger release now that they know like Trump's going to be in office? You're going to like potentially Elon Musk and Vivek are going to be like able to like see what's going on and slash like maybe cut departments. So part of this is going to be like they like things might get uncovered, like the Twitter files. The equivalent of that might happen in like the U.S. government. So they're just trying to like get ahead of this stuff, and this is just like the beginning of like a much larger like release.
Yeah, I think so. But to answer the first question is, no, there. This is real. I'm telling you, it's real. And if you watched the full hearing, it's long. I know not any many people are going to watch the full thing, but I'm into this, so I did. And when you see the body language, and it's not even it's you get more answers about the questions that they avoided than the questions that they actually said yes or no to, because
Interesting.
the director, Mace, Congresswoman Mace, who I like that she's spearheading this. I want to know, but let's uncover all this extraterrestrial stuff. She's cool, man. I like that. And she said, I don't care if they put me on a list, because apparently if you say certain words in congressional hearings, you get put on some kind of a list where they don't reveal um, classified data to you and information. It's that she said that too. It's very interesting, very
Mm-hmm.
interesting. So if you look at those three gentlemen who we just named, watch their body language and watch their tone of voice when they say when they avoid and they say I apologize, like they're like I this is a question I can't get into, we have to talk about this in private, not in a public
Yeah.
forum. These
Interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And then to answer your second question, I think slowly it's going to trickle out that they're going to basically like slow drip this information to us, because in truth, I think we talked about this privately, and I've talked about this with many people. I don't think the general public is ready for this type of information. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta this needs to be eased in. You can't just what you were saying before, you can't just post all these videos and release all these documents. You can't do it yet, because people are, I mean, it might there's I'm not saying it will, but there's a potential it could cause mass hysteria.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to respond to a couple of
Yeah.
things you said. One, I don't know if it would, because like, dude, we are flooded with so much. I don't think a lot of people like. I'd be curious to know of all the things on Twitter right now people are talking about. They're not talking about this, even though you think this has like
This is
larger.
massive.
This
Yeah.
has larger ramifications for like how you see yourself and how you see your like the world and like humanity. So I do think like a lot of people like dude are ignorant like and I don't even mean it in a bad way. It's just like this is not a priority. And if you did say tomorrow like I have evidence that there was an alien, like irrefutable evidence, they still would probably refute it. So I don't know. I think you're probably right, especially I think if I do find it interesting that they released it right now. And I kind of
Right
wonder,
after the election.
yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of wonder if a lot of these government agencies are starting to say, "Oh shit!" Like the writing's on the wall. Like there's going to be some stuff that comes out. Like I think this is my opinion. Trump and some of the people he's going to put in office are going to. He's a digger for Jurassic
Yeah.
Park.
Or yeah, exactly.
Are just
When
going to like start turning things up, and they're like, "Let's get ahead of things." My
yeah,
last
or
good.
RFK, like
Yeah, like an
RFK.
RFK. I mean, like
He's
I would
a
imagine in the storage vaults, like UFOs is not too far away from like Kennedy assassination. So they're like,
yeah,
shit, they're gonna find the Kennedy assassination. We might as well get the alien stuff out too.
yeah.
The other thing I'd say is like
It's a good point.
this is again where it gets weird, right? Because I think part of like human rulers is that let's think about this for a second. How to put this? Part of being this is just gonna be me rambling for a second, so I apologize to those listening, but let me see
Yeah,
if I
yeah,
can
go
I
ahead.
ramble through it. Like I think part of human rule the part of being a human ruler is like an illusion. It's like it's being able to hypnotize the people that you should be in that position, and that you somehow like can stop them, right? In the end of the day, like if all of Americans decided that the government needed to change something and they all joined forces, again, even the military are citizens. Like theoretically, it's kind of like all a mind game. Like the government appears in power, but it's an illusion. Like we give them power, right? And part of their part of the game is to project power. Like we know what's going on. We have our finger on the pulse. We have all our hands on the threads. And it's like it's all kind of an illusion, right? Especially if you believe in like cosmic things, like there's other alien civilizations, or there's gods, or there's a god. Like, and that would mean in reality that you're like slow on the totem pole, right? So part of it's a
Mm-hmm.
game. Like we have to project that we're in power, so you think we're in power, so that you allow us to be in charge, right? And I think that's
It's
been
true.
that way for all of
Mm.
humanity, right? Because at the end of the day, the people are always going to outnumber, the rulers.
Yeah,
Like
of
it's just a
course.
fact, like right in any environment, that's how it is. Um, so I kind of wonder with this kind of stuff, it's like you remember in the episode of Game of Thrones where Varys is talking about how he hates magic and how, you know, and then he's having a conversation with
Tyrion.
Tyrion
Yeah.
about and like why, and then he talks about like not because he thinks it's not real, because he thinks it's real, and because he knows, and then he tells like the story of his
I
castration.
love that scene. Yeah.
Great, right? Because he's what does he say? He's like, and then he was praying over this
Uh,
this fire,
uh,
and then he heard a voice come
he
out of
heard
the
it.
fire.
Yeah,
So
that it's
right,
yeah.
and and here's like a thing. Like I was thinking about this, like since I knew we were going to talk about this. Every society has believed that there's like worlds within worlds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to my reading of human history, all kings had wizards, sorcerers, people who were supposed to be able to bridge the gap between these worlds and somehow wrestle power for the person who was in charge. All right. One thing I'd say is that like there's no reason to believe that like we don't try to do that as well. And if you were to be able to call out into the fire and hear a voice calling back to you, what would you describe? How would you write down in a document who or what that thing was?
Yeah. So I see where you're trying to go with this. Is it we're talking about, are these like you said, celestial beings, or are these actual aliens
So
in like yeah,
Schellenberger, it's funny.
yeah,
Schellenberger was talking to someone about this. Schellenberger is the journalist,
yeah.
and Schellenberger was already throwing out the breadcrumbs of this event that was coming up a couple days ago,
Uh-huh.
like a month or two ago. Because I remember he was saying, he's like, I'm interviewing. He's like, I am in communications with a lot of people who are connected with government hidden information regarding UFOs, UAPs. You can find these videos.
Hmm.
And he's talking to, I forget who he's talking to. And he says, and it's going to be, when all of this comes out, it's going to be like a crazy release. And it's it's not what people think. He's like, there is, and this is his words. He's like, there is a spiritual aspect to this
Ah,
story.
good.
And it's like, it makes you wonder. That's why I say when they use words like non-human intelligence, that broadens the spectrum significantly. Anyway, that was me rambling.
Yeah, no, but I see where you're going. Like for me, if you ask me my personal opinion, I think there are actual physical organic entities out there.
Yeah, like a
That's different.
biological thing that was
Yeah,
born on some
correct.
planet in some
Yes.
place.
So
Yeah.
I'm more that,
That's
but I
you're
do.
the ET.
Yeah, yes, but if you, I do also, I don't dismiss the the spiritual part of it. Like there's a realm where, why do you think they, like you alluded to, like Santeria, witchcraft, voodoo, ghosts, just in general? If you want to put like the top of the umbrella, would just be, do you believe in ghosts? I do, as well. So
I mean,
I
dude,
think both exist.
yeah, I mean the Nazis were big into, or I should say, like Hitler was big into the occult as a power source,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they invested a lot of time and energy in trying to find, like, again, it's like weapons of mass destruction, but like spiritual weapons of mass destruction. So I mean, that's why it's kind of it's an interesting one. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm curious to see what
Yeah.
I'm curious if anything comes out.
So I do think once Trump has his inauguration, we're going to start seeing some things. There's going to be more of these type of hearings, and I think we need it as just like a general public. However, I think
Yeah.
the way it's being filtered out, I don't know. I kind of share your distrust, where it's like, maybe I don't think this hearing is like once again, you have to, if you want to know what it is, you got to watch the actual hearing, because these people aren't playing around. This isn't, some people will say, I was reading some that people, oh, this is just performative, this is a distraction. It's not. It's like, watch the people and watch their reactions to everything. It's, you know how you let me use an example. When you're gambling, when you're playing blackjack, when you're playing poker against 5 other people, and they have tells, remember rounders,
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
when you have a tell, when someone, when you see a certain hand, and then your body just instinctively moves with something, watch their body language. This shit's real, man. I'm telling you. And we always knew it. I always knew it, but because I was digging into this, like you said, like the Jurassic Park, that guy. That's one of my favorite characters. He's only in it for like 5 minutes, but
He's a digger.
he's a dick, and
That's great. I
he's
was
holding up the mosquito.
yeah,
He's
yeah, yeah,
holding up
the
the
amber.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, again, like, I think it's a funny thing that, like, it's almost like our hubris of modern times that we
Yeah.
think this is this massive thing, when, like, dude, Ancient Aliens is a good example. Like, you don't even have to think, you don't even have to see Ancient Aliens as truthful, but just the idea that that all of these like all of the stories in Ancient Aliens show a ancient people
Yeah.
that is
Similar.
documented, who had some view or belief in non-human intelligence that was not from this planet or not from this realm. It wasn't human. Like, it's only in recent times, in like our hubris to, like, a sense, break free of what people would call like the ancient past, that we don't like that it's like new to us. You know what I mean? Like, if you went into the Amazon right now to an undocumented people and said, hey, like, are there like things that come from the stars? They'd probably be like, yes. Like, yeah, of course. Like, what are you talking about? We've always known this. It's just like us
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
our hubris that are like, that can't be true. That's not real.
Yeah, human beings, are human nature in general is very self-centered, and even leaning toward narcissistic
Dude,
as well.
I don't even, to some degree, I disagree with that. I think that, well, no, I think we are, but I think our society today, since like, or our society for like the last 100 to 200 years, has tried intentionally to break free of or break away from, like, how we viewed humanity and its placement within the cosmos. Like, my point is that I think a human of Roman times might have been more apt to be like, oh, do you think there are other things other than humans that exist? They'd say, probably, yeah. Like, oh, yeah. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the average Roman would probably be like, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the words we use to describe them will probably be different. Right. But again, it's like, I think now it's like, dude, we live in a very secular, like, humanist world where we're like the top of the food chain. Right.
Yeah, true.
I don't think the ancient peoples thought that. They're like, no, no, like there's these things, like they're gods. They look like us, but they're bigger and stronger and have abilities and powers. Where do they live? Oh, they live in like Mount Olympus. Where's Mount Olympus? Oh, it's like in the sky somewhere, right? You know what I mean? Like they might use different words, but they wouldn't be surprised by like probably like these ideas. They'd be like, oh no, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's true because that's a good segue into what I was thinking of while we were talking. I'm gonna pose you two questions here. So why do you think, as humans, because we're gonna get into the psychological existential part of it, why do
Okay.
you think, and what Mr. Gold said during the hearing, he also alluded to this. Why do you think people wear NASA apparel that sells? I'm gonna have a NASA hat. I'm gonna have a NASA T-shirt. There's no Department of Defense T-shirt. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, which leads into the broader question: why have human beings been so fascinated with it's like investigating this? There's a reason for it. Is it built into our genes, or do we know something?
Yeah. I mean, to just pull out a random
Yeah,
Bible verse,
yeah.
says God put immortality in all man's heart so that he would seek him.
See. So that means it's programmed into us.
That's how I mean I would interpret that. Like
Yeah,
there's an innate desire. I mean, think about this, dude. Like all ancient peoples, most ancient peoples, like ancient aliens. We keep using this as a good example because
it's
it's
a
like a
great
good
show.
template. But
It's
like,
just watch Ancient
how
Aliens
many
in
of those
heaven.
cultures had a conception of the stars? Like
Every single one,
most cultures that
almost.
I'm aware of, like saw knowledge from the stars. Like they looked into the space, the heavens, and they believed that you could interpret something about what was going on here and the future, and like there was an importance like looking outward. And I
Yeah.
think it's like important, like in Ancient Aliens, I think they make the point. In other areas, it's like also those ancient peoples, when they looked at the sky, right, there was no light pollution, there was no pollution, so they saw like almost like into space, right?
Hmm.
So like yeah, I mean, all of those peoples, for whatever reason, thought or came to the conclusion or were taught that they could look out and there was something was going on out there that affected them here on this planet, right? There was knowledge, there was something there. Um, right?
Yeah.
I believe that human beings of the ancient times realized the pecking order much better than we were. I think they realized that there was things going on outside of what they could see and perceive that affected them. Like
Yeah.
they just understood that that was the reality. And like nowadays we don't.
Yeah, I think a lot of, I mean, this is a completely different topic. I don't mean to swerve,
No, dude,
but
at this point
but
we're just
yeah.
we're doing the dance.
This is where technology plays a large part. Where
Yeah.
it technology, yes, it's helped people stay in touch and communicate and learn and educate themselves, but it's also distracted us from, um, like you said, examining what this existence really is, because it's easy to just play a video game and just switch off.
Yeah. Distractions. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas in ancient times, when we talk about antiquity and all the indigenous people all over the world, like you've said correctly, everything. If you go to the Aborigines in Australia, all their folklore is has to deal with the stars and the supernatural.
Hmm.
And the same thing with the Incas, the same Mayas, Aztecs, same thing. Now, why do people from different corners of the planet have similar, basically, I would
Yeah,
say, like religious, not spiritual beliefs is the
dude.
better word
Why
I'd say.
why are there pyramids all over the
Yeah,
world with different
yeah,
cultures?
exactly. Like how did that happen? So
Yeah, I mean now we're going back into Graham Hancock.
yeah.
So here, let me ask you this question, and this is purely speculative, right? What do you think would have greater impact from those people in government? So, like you said, you were watching these people and like you could read their body language. I'm just curious,
Yeah, it's
what do you think would impact them more, or would make them? I mean, these were disturbed, fearful, uncomfortable. A finding knowledge of like ET, like alien life, another civilization, or some type of evidence that like there's a god.
ooh, that's a great question actually. I believe
And anyone can answer this
and
differently. I was
yeah,
like, I'm
yeah,
just
yeah,
curious.
yeah.
Like, let's say
I
their witness is like, oh, we spoke to something in a burning bush and it
yeah,
terrified us, or
yeah,
versus we found this ship and like we hit a button and it opened up,
yeah.
and like we're
See,
pretty sure that there's like a civilization somewhere else out there in the cosmos.
yeah, no, this is a great question. This is what I think about at night, Chris. On
That's what I
a
figured. I figured
humorous
it's a
note.
good question for you because
It,
I have my opinion. That's
yeah,
why I'm curious what you think.
it's the tangible versus the intangible, the animate versus the inanimate.
Yeah, what
I
would be
think
more
it's more
frightening?
animate. I think it's more animate. Wouldn't be more frightening. Uh, the animate, the real,
Hmm.
the organic, like you said, the
Well,
biological
and
being.
I'm not saying both can be
Yeah,
organic. It's just again, is one is like
yeah. One has the like you can touch, you can feel
well,
it.
I'm
It's
saying like
tangible.
I'm going to use these words, but they're imperfect. But let's say like an angel, for all intents and purposes, could have a body, but one is like a celestial being that represents, I don't know, an agent of God. I'm using these imperfect words to the best of my ability,
Yeah,
and one is like just literally a different species. It has its own history. It's some planet somewhere off in the cosmos, right? And there's people there who there's probably aliens who think one way, think a different way, different culture, right? It's like so one is like we found something that we're pretty sure there's like another America out in space. And the other is
yeah.
like we might have
Uh-huh.
discovered that there is not discovered, but we came in contact with something that makes us think that like yeah, all the stuff we've read in the books is real and I don't know. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know. So
I
the
so
ET is the one for you.
I'm gonna answer this with a question to you, and
Hmm.
a question that I love to pose to a lot of my close friends. Let's say you're by yourself in your house, apartment, condo, whatever, alone, completely in the dark, in the middle of the night. You're awake, and you hear a noise, a strange and odd sound, maybe a
Mm.
little eerie. What's the first thing that comes into your mind?
Oh,
What do you think it is?
correct. You
Because
think,
that might answer your question.
yeah, I mean, you think human, most likely,
You're right. Exactly.
physical. But I will counter
Yeah.
you're in the woods,
Yeah.
right? Which would end up being more frightening? Seeing a flaming being, right, standing 10 feet away from you, or seeing a person standing 10 feet away from you. By
Oh yeah.
themselves, each could be frightening. Together, which is more frightening?
Oh, the first one, of course. Yeah.
Correct. So I mean, again, it's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, if I'm walking in the woods and I see a human, that's terrifying, especially if there's no one around. I'm like, what's going on? Uh, if I saw a being of some sort, that's going to trump the person.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that I agree with.
I
But
think either like if you were a government official, I think either would be terrifying. I think one is like, again, it's like it's hard to get too spiritual, but like one has physical ramifications and one might have deeper ramifications. And like
Like what? Like emotional or like
I mean, dude,
like soulful?
I mean, think about this: is like all of humanity. Like, we try to like dodge the question, but like we're gonna all die, and like every culture has most cultures have viewed like have answered that question of like, well, what is the meaning of life, and like what happens afterwards. And like we had this conversation a couple of days ago, right? Like,
Yeah.
right, that is the temporal versus the eternal, right? The Egyptians had an answer to that. I think the Sumerians had an answer to that. Native Americans had an answer to that. Most cultures, like, this is not this time on the planet. Like, you had a start point, but you don't have an end point. It's just a question of what comes after your physical death, right? And alien species
Exactly.
out there, again, it's terrifying as a threat, but it's like as terrifying. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm wrong, but like it would be as terrifying as like if China went to war with. You know what I mean? It's like a physical danger, right? It's which is scary, right? The other
Hmm.
one is yeah, it's an eternal. It's making you question your whole understanding of what it means to be human, and also like purpose and like potentially judgment, ramifications, etc. Like, imagine if you were confronted by that. Like, that's going to change the game. And also power. Like, what is the point of government in a sense if you are like confronted by truly the celestial? You're gonna be like, well, why are we doing all of these things that don't, like, they're wrong? Like,
Don't. Yeah.
power ceases to be powerful, right? Here's the thing. Another question.
Yeah. It can topple the status quo for sure. Yeah.
Let me ask you this question from a government
Yeah.
standpoint. What is more beneficial for the government, that we find out or we release? And again, I don't know. We're just shitting, right? Like, what is more beneficial from the government, that we find or that we release the evidence that there is an alien civilization with the ability to come to our planet, and that we don't know if their intent is good or bad, or that we have proven or we've contacted non-human, like celestial beings, let's just say angels, demons, whatever, fill in the blank, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Like, from a government standpoint, which has a greater impact
The
for its power?
the first, because it people would think about the physical threat of that.
Dude, you're gonna be like, all right, well, we need
Yeah.
a defender. It's like it becomes like Independence Day. Like, well, all right,
Exactly.
we need the strongest government. We need here. What do you need? Here's all our money. Like, build, like, get Elon Musk to build us like war plane, like, war spaceships. Like, we need to prepare. Versus,
I
it's
think the second, that's a good question, because I think the second would be celebrated. Sorry to cut you off. I think it
no,
would
no,
be
no.
celebrated because it would be concrete evidence of everyone's faith being validated.
Correct. And
I
also saying, hey, you know what? Like, why are we fighting? You know what I mean? Like, it
yeah,
puts everything in perspective. Like, no, no, no. Like, I'm not going to give you. It's been proven here that, like, fill in the blank, right? This is the path. I don't need to give you any more money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my soul is eternal. Like, this is just as a blip on the radar.
exactly.
I'm not giving you any more power. Like, I have proof here. I think from a government standpoint, that'd be terrifying.
No, it would be awful. That's I never thought about spirituality that way. That's a good point. Who benefits the most from, if everyone's religious beliefs are true, which I personally, I mean, as you know, I disagree with it. You have a different take. Yeah, it,
Even if one was proven,
yeah,
but beyond a reasonable doubt, it's
that
like,
it's true.
here's the
Yeah,
evidence. This one is the true one. There is a God, and He said, "Do this," or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. That would
It's
change
like,
the game. That would
it would
change. Yeah,
change
yeah,
everything,
yeah.
right? And if you're a government, you'd say that can't come out, dog. Like, we can't. We're gonna lose
Because
all our power.
they'll govern it would have no control. It would not matter at all.
You'd say, fuck. You say, I don't
Yeah,
care. Put me in jail. I know what's gonna come after this. I'm not gonna go hurt people or
yeah,
go
yeah.
to war with this group over here or do this thing. You're right. Because again, going back to the very beginning of our conversation, the government kind of lives in the fact that you allow it to do things. And I mean, it can, like, as long as a small percentage is fighting the government, like it's never going to win because enough people are obeying. But like if everyone just said no, like do your worst, it's not going to change. It's not going to change what I do. Eventually, it's like you can't, right? Like there's a lot of, you know what I mean? Like even soldiers, at some point, they're going to say, I'm not going to follow that order, man. Like I'm not going to hurt these people, like, etc. So yeah, I'd be curious to see
Yeah,
what comes out.
that would be, oh man, that's actually a good idea for. I don't want to give this away. We probably should pocket this. That's a good idea for a movie. Imagine that.
I have to imagine this movie's come out.
Yeah. Well, yes, but it's more. I want it to be more in like an intellectual examination, not like an action movie. I like Independence Day though. I do. I love that movie. One of my favorite movies as a child.
Yeah, I mean,
Go
I
ahead.
think both would be. I mean, it'd be
Yeah.
terrifying, dude. It's like but again, one is. I mean, that's I think the psyop that Joe Rogan was kind of like referencing. Is like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like if you want a strong government, you just got to give everyone the same enemy. Like, look what
Yeah.
happened with World
Yeah.
War II. We were like, we got to
Yeah.
go kill Nazis. Everyone, like, our economy was just booming, right? Like, women were in where, like, we were making. I was listening to something that was like crazy. Like when we were making like bomber planes, we were making like I might be misquoting, but like 16 bomber planes like a day. Like we were just banging things out like in incredible rates because everyone was like working and everyone had a common goal and a
Yep.
common enemy.
Yep.
And like that's my thing. I'd be curious to see what happens. But if they point us to a common enemy, it's like maybe you're telling the truth, or maybe this is like a way of you keeping yourself alive. I mean, again, think about it. The government is in a way a parasite that lives on the people, that
Yeah.
convinces the people
To
that
give them
they're the
taxes. Yeah.
that they're the parasite, that you actually need it. It's like no, you need me,
Yeah.
right? You don't make anything, you don't produce anything. You take my money
You take my tax money.
and
Exactly.
then tell me that it's for my good, and I have no idea if it is or not.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent question. Actually, I think Prometheus, remember Prometheus, that does a good
Yeah.
job of examining this very thing. Um, but I'm with you. I have one last topic I want to
Oh,
raise.
1 second before you bring it up.
Yeah,
So there's a in the Prometheus.
yeah.
There's so when like Michael Fassbender, that the droid,
Yeah.
he confronts that alien and the alien is like speaking to him
Mm-hmm.
and then rips his head off.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting because that script, if you look at the actual script, there was dialogue there that they cut out.
Ah, I didn't know that. Why did
Yeah.
they cut it out though?
So I don't who wrote, I forget who wrote the
I
that
can look it up.
script.
I don't know who wrote it.
It's like a big name. I mean, it's the guy who did, I think, who originally did Aliens.
Is it Ridley Scott?
I think so. Anyway, in the script, essentially,
It's directed by Ridley Scott, but it's written by Damon Lindelof, who I believe wrote Lost. Remember the show Lost?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
The Leftovers. Remember
Interesting.
and
Yes.
so The Leftovers is a show about the rapture happening and
Yes.
people disappearing. You remember that show?
Yep.
It was written by Lindelof but directed by Scott.
So interesting. So in the script, the alien talks. They have a dialogue, and essentially, the alien says like, the answers the question of like, why are you destroying humanity? And the
Mhm.
alien is like, we made you for a purpose, and you've just like devolved into like essentially violence. And then we sent to you prophets. Then we sent to you, essentially he's vocalizing Christianity. He's like, and then
Yeah.
we sent to you one of our teachers, i.e. Jesus in this case, and
Yeah.
you murdered and killed him.
Yeah.
And now we're done sending you any help to educate you. You just needed to be destroyed. So it's like, it's interesting, like that they just decided to like
Exterminated. Yeah.
clip that part, clip that dialogue. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
You think it was studio pressure? Now we're gonna get into the conspiracies. Because
I have no idea.
yeah,
I just know you can find it. You can find the
yeah,
full dialogue. And I remember I saw it somewhere, like someone had clipped it and put it on YouTube, and it's a cool dialogue. Like
I like that. Yeah,
it's like I I don't know why they would have took it away. Unless it's like because the person who wrote it really used like a Christian underpinning. It's not. I mean, it's like that's the story outline he used.
it is.
But it was cool because it kind of like it answers the question because they're trying to figure out why did you make us and why are you killing us, and like they decided to pull out the dialogue that answers that question. Literally, the alien answers the question.
Yeah,
I don't know.
you failed, and we have no choice now but to exterminate you.
Yeah,
Basically,
you become so far from what we created you to
yeah,
be,
exactly.
and when we tried to like right the ship, you just unwilling.
Yeah,
So we need to start over
I
again.
love that. Why did
It's
that
cool.
not make the movie? That's
I
why.
don't know.
That's a studio thing. I know it.
I mean,
I
yeah,
know
100%,
dumb
100%.
executives fucking cut that.
I mean, it's like
Yeah,
I don't think it's too far of a conspiracy to say
yeah,
like we didn't want this to have such a Christian undertone.
yeah. That's
So
fair.
it's
That's fair.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, man, I don't know, dude. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. Hopefully something, and hopefully that's why I said like my conspiracy of like the government and like choosing now because now maybe they feel like the government's going to start to get like chopped up a little bit, and it's like, oh well, this is a common enemy, and I want to see proof. If you
Yeah.
got a vessel, let's see the 3D. Let's see the full on
I don't know if
color
you're gonna see
video.
them anytime soon, though. But you gotta
And
believe.
and again, it's just like then you're just leading me along, and you're asking me to have faith in you, and I'm like, I don't have faith in the government. I
Yeah.
don't. I mean, I think we've learned that. Like with, it's interesting. Schellenberger was part of the Twitter files.
Oh, I didn't know that either. No.
He
Wow.
was one of the key journalists involved in the Twitter files. He got invited in by Elon Musk to help, you know, look
Yeah.
through all the documentation. So like, he's someone I follow. I actually follow Michael Schellenberger.
Yeah, he was good on the panel. Yeah.
He did a lot on like San Francisco. He's from San Francisco, and how the government and choices they're making are almost in a sense like creating the huge problems that San Francisco is seeing. He's an interesting guy. Anyway. All right,
Yeah.
dude. Well, we're coming up on an hour. What was the last thing you want? You had one thing I interrupted
Yeah,
you.
I no, it's okay. I wanted to say one more thing. There's multiple programs. The one thing that got released. This would be a good ending point, actually. The one thing that also came out in then hearings. There's two major takeaways. Number one, first contact has already happened, which was no one went on record and said it, but you can tell that it's happened.
Okay.
They had a conversation about it. And secondly, there's multiple programs within the US government and departments that are specifically dedicated to investigating these things. The topic I wanted to raise is, why would you have these the like departments within the federal government for no reason? You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, I don't think again from that one Joe Rogan video, what I took from it was just like it is within the government. It is a known thing, even at even at like the low levels. Like that guy wasn't high up in the Air Force, but like it was a known thing amongst pilots that there are these things out there. They are UAPs. We don't know what they are, but they're there all the time, and they look a certain way and they can do certain things. So I mean, I think that like, yeah, like there's been people investigating these things quietly for a long time.
Yeah. And it's
Dude, I think that the government is shady as hell. I think that there's probably divisions of the government looking into like Bigfoot and werewolves and shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
dude, I guarantee there is, but they won't. They
correct.
won't admit it.
Anything that could be dangerous or like, and people complain about. There's probably like the X-Files. Like, there is probably a group
You read my mind. I was
yeah,
just gonna
that's
say
there to say like, all right, these are the weird things that no one really wants to be attached to. This is your department. Look into this. dude, the world is a weird place. Like demons, spiritual. Constantine. You ever see the movie Constantine?
Yeah, yeah.
Like shit like that definitely
Keanu, baby.
is being investigated. Like there are occurrences that can't be explained, whether they're psychological, it's a crazy person, or something else. These things are happening, and I would be, you know what I mean? I would be surprised. I would be very surprised if someone started to do an audit. You just would see an endless variety of crazy, unexplainable things taking place that the government has been keeping quiet and looking into.
Yeah,
And I mean beyond aliens. Like I think that's like
yeah, everything. Yeah, yeah.
all the weird.
Yeah, I think that's why I was just gonna say you said it before me, but that's I was thinking we were on the same wavelength.
Oh
That
yeah,
There is 1,000% an X Files department within the federal government, FBI, CIA.
yeah,
Definitely,
dude. Yeah,
definitely.
100%, 100%. I mean, again, from two perspectives. One, just like the Nazis, I think the government as an entity who desires to have power, right? You don't take anything off the table, right? Like, I guarantee it, man. There's someone in the government that is like a specialist in alchemy. They probably have people on the payroll who are quote unquote sorcerers. Like, you know what I mean? It's like if you got endless money coming in from your the peasants, you ain't gonna leave anything off the table. Like you're gonna explore a variety of things. Just like there's probably someone in the FBI who's a deals with psychics or deals with people who have remote vision or whatever, right? They're not the majority, but I would imagine, yeah, dude, anything you can think of, there's probably some little dark corner of the government that
Yeah,
is funding it, hoping that it comes out. It's like, all right, we're going to spend about $10 million, $1 billion. Maybe one of these weird programs will reap some reward from, but we're not going to like cross it off the list until we like prove beyond a reasonable doubt there's
exactly,
no value
exactly.
in it.
Yeah. Man, I wish when I was younger I knew this. I would have joined one of those departments.
Nah, dog.
I
I
want
think you
in
chose wisely. I think you lose your soul when you get into that
if
stuff,
you get
man.
into man.
Dude, can
But
you imagine like let me just be honest with you. Like, can you imagine if you came across some truth, like a deep truth, and then you just kept it to yourself your whole life?
you couldn't yet, and if you said anything, there would be massive consequences.
I mean,
Yeah,
to me, it's like you almost. I think
I
that
know
that
that's fair.
argument. I think that argument's bullshit. Like, oh
Yeah,
well, there's. It's like that's not your right. It's not your right to hold back something that is like would affect people's knowledge of reality.
it's true.
Anyway, all right. Last few minutes, dude. UFC's tomorrow. Or
Yeah,
yeah, who do you think's
yeah.
gonna? Let's just do main event.
Yeah. Let's pick it up. Also, while I'm pulling up the card right now, what uh, that scene, that Varys scene that you brought up, you know what my favorite line is in that scene? I bet you can guess it. When Tyrion first walks in and he says, "I hope I was hoping to speak to you in confidence," and then Varys says, "Oh, always in confidence." I love that guy.
That was a great character.
Yeah,
It's awesome how he becomes a hero.
exactly. The spider, baby.
He was the good guy all along. Like he was one. Like he had the best interests of the empire always at heart.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's when when Baelish has like a verbal sparring with him in the throne room. Baelish goes, "I'm thinking about the realm." And Varys is like, "Oh, please," because Baelish is only out for himself.
Correct.
Yeah,
He's like, I don't care about the
yeah,
realm unless I'm
yeah.
sitting
But
on the throne.
but you're right. Varys honestly does. Yeah. All right, let's go. Bo Nickel. I'm going Bo Nickel. I'm excited for that fight actually
All right, I'm
against
gonna vote
Craig.
against that, but yeah, okay. I'll take the other one.
Oliveira or Chandler. Ooh.
Oh. Well, so they fought once before. Chandler
Yeah.
lost.
Uh, you
So the
know
question
what?
is, in the rematch, will he win this time?
It's good. It's hard to go against Charles.
I'm
I'm
gonna I'm
I'm
gonna take Michael this time.
all right, I'll take Oliveira. But I if you ask me what I want to happen, I want Chandler to win. but I think Oliveira will win.
Oh, I like Oliveira win. I always
Yeah.
like Oliveira, but I think I don't know. We'll see. So you got okay. So I'm okay. What's
Do you know anything about like Araujo and Silva, the women's fight on the main card?
No, I don't know
No, I
anything.
don't know anything about them, so I can't comment. Yeah, but I know Bo Nickel definitely winning. That's nailed on. Do it.
One thing
He's
I'd say is that Paul Craig is like a
yeah,
jujitsu, like very very good jujitsu. So
yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, okay. And then
Nickel.
let's go main event,
Ooh,
doggy.
John Jones is back. Let's
I want
this
John
is
Jones to win. I'll call it. I'm a fanboy.
um I'm not even gonna go against that. I'm going John Jones too. But John Jones is back to cement his legacy. Let's see what happens.
I
What
want
a,
him to win, and I want him to just be like, I'm out, guys.
he,
I'm done.
he might be, dude.
I'm
He's
riding off into the sunset with 28 wins and
yeah,
really no losses.
and gonna vacate the belt. Like imagine that's what Amanda Nunez did. That's why the respect to her.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, and that one. If you look at his record, the one loss, I believe is a no contest. Like he lost because
Let me see. Keep going.
he either kicked someone like it was like a technical loss. Like he didn't lose. Oh no, he lost because he got popped for steroids. I think, and that's why they gave him the like he won that, and then he got popped for steroids, and then he lost. They took the win away from him.
Yeah, it disqualified against Matt
Correct.
Hamill in 2009. Yeah,
I'm
it was a
pretty sure.
DQ. It was a
But
DQ.
he's never really lost. Like no one has ever like as a
Yeah,
man to man fighting put him down and where he lost.
yeah, that's going to be a good fight. John Jones. Yeah,
It's interesting. I'll leave you with this. Is like it's funny how like I like to see undefeated fighters. Like I'm like I want you to go as far as like I'm happy, but it's funny how like fans want to see him lose. And I just like what that's like the psychology of that. Like I think it's funny. Like I think it's cool like that someone is victorious and they're just so good that they just keep winning and that no one can defeat them. Like I think that's awesome. But it is funny how like a lot of people are like they're already mad that he's like talking about retiring and it's like that he's ducking quote unquote ducking Tom Aspinall.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he's like, dude, like there's always gonna be someone else. Like you just essentially want me to keep fighting till I lose. It's like, nah, dog. I'm gonna leave with everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Leave good like you said, right into the sunset. Going out as champion and saying, "I'm done here. Here's the belt. I'm always in my mind. I'm forever the champion."
Yeah,
I
that'd
love
be
that.
awesome.
I love that too. Yo, one more thing before you go. I just looked at Oliveira's stats. He has 21 submission wins, dude. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, dude.
21 subs.
Yeah, I mean, dude, he is like a jujitsu
Yeah.
crazy man. The
Yeah.
one thing I'd say, the one reason why I said Michael Chandler this time is because Charles Oliveira, if you watch, maybe
Yeah.
tonight you can watch some of his old fights.
Yeah.
Because his jujitsu is so good and he's so comfortable on the ground, like he gets hit a lot and he'll fall down and he just like falls down onto his back. And it's like he often gets hit he also often falls down within like the first few seconds. Like he comes in there balls blazing and then he gets clipped. And then his default is he just goes onto his back because he's like so comfortable on the ground.
I see.
Right. So he's a little, I want to say reckless, but like, yeah, kind of reckless. I wonder if Michael Chandler might win this time. Because if you watch their first fight, Michael Chandler just
I'm
came
gonna
in,
watch it tonight. Yeah.
guns blazing, and like was doing damage. And then Charles survived and then eventually won. But again, it's like if Michael Chandler does that same technique, it could win this time, right? It's like kind of a question mark if you can get through his first barrage.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, I'm looking at Chandler. He only has 7 subs, but his last fight was against Poirier, who I love.
Yeah,
And
I like
but it was 2. He hasn't fought in 2 years, man.
2 years. That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
dude. It's been a while because he was waiting to fight. He was waiting to fight Conor McGregor.
That's right. All right. Yeah, but we got the preview. Let's see what happens.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Draxx Life. We'll keep you informed of like what's going on with this whole UAP UFO conversation, right? I know like Bobby A is going to have his finger on the pulse. So as
Yeah.
new stuff comes out, we'll try to do another episode to just try to keep that flow going out. Just so if you are listening to us, you can kind of chew it up, pre-digested, via Bobby A.
Space is the place.
All right, I'll leave you with that. Peace.
Peace out.